Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity Podcast, episode 159. So after a couple of weeks of great guests, we had Pat Flynn, and last week we obviously had Magnus for Magnuson. Today we are back with the three of us, the three hosts, and then the next few weeks ahead we have guests as well. So today is kind of a catch up on what we've taken from the last few guests, the last few weeks ourselves, what we're up to training wise and within our own businesses and training our clients and what we're working on, and then looking forward to the next few weeks of guests again. So before we kick off, let's just go to the hosts and see how they're getting on. So Mr. Peter Lance in Bath, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Very well. I'm actually very busy, believe it or not. I am, honestly, I'm super busy. And I've had to change my days around as well because, well, this will go out in a couple of weeks, but yeah, it's a heat wave going on at the minute, isn't it? Kids have gone back to school, so it's 30 degrees, obviously. So it's too hot for the boys, so I'm having to get up and go out and take them out at 7 o'clock in the morning and then get back after doing 5 or 6 miles or 10 miles yesterday, and then came back and did my training. So it's pretty everything's arse about face at the moment, so to speak.
And how is the training going? Is it still the pull-ups, the pistol squats, and the presses?
It is. And a couple of weeks ago, it was the week after I got back off holiday, and it was all heavy. And that was the day before we went to the Disabled Strongman, and the Friday just didn't happen. And I sent Paul a message and just said, my central nervous system's just not happy with me at the minute. And he said, what you need is a week off and then the start of another cycle. And I was like, oh, God bless you.
So did you enjoy that week off? I presume you were still walking every day and still doing all your steps, but just no strength training for a week.
Did all the normal stuff. And I didn't even try and do a few pull-ups or anything like that. I left it. I was like, you know what? I haven't had a full week off for like 5 years. So I just decided not to do anything, which was nice. But then when I've got back to it this week, I'm getting DOMs, which I haven't had for ages. And it's like doing pull-ups, because I didn't really do pull-ups while I was on holiday as well. So it feels like someone's just been punching me in the sides.
That's like when I went on holiday, I trained every day, but I didn't do any squatting or any deep squatting, certainly no barbell squatting. And the first session back was like 10 sets of 5, say, and it wasn't a heavy weight, but yeah, I had DOMs for a couple of days after that, just because the body for 2.5 weeks hadn't done it. So it's just that, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? If people sometimes equate a good session, not obviously, hopefully people who listen to this podcast regularly, but people equate a good session to being sore the next day or really feeling like they've been run over by a bus, and it doesn't really, all it takes is a novel stimulus to make you sore. It's not really a sign of productivity. It's you've just done something different that your body's not used to, or gone heavier than you normally would or whatever to make you sore. It's not the sign of, that was a great session, but it's almost worn like a badge of honor, isn't it? A lot of the time. I mean, we do get DOMs occasionally, but like you say, there's a reason to it or behind it. And it's not something that we're chasing by any means, is it?
Well, no, I had two things with that. A couple of weeks ago, I was doing some pistols with 28 kilos, and I had 2 sets of 10 to do with some other stuff in between. So instead of doing 2 sets of 10, I did a quick set of 5 just to warm up, did something else, and then I did a set of 20 on each leg just to see if I could, and sent it to Paul and went, have a look at this. Because I couldn't do one with the 28 2 or 3 years ago. But the day after that, my legs were achy. But there would be, right? Because that's a lot of volume in one set. But what I find interesting, like you've just said, people think that stimulus, that DOMS, means that there's progression. But I've not had DOMS for ages using the weights that I'm using. I'm using lighter weights this week, and I'm getting DOMs. And like you say, it's just from new stimulus, which isn't new. It just hasn't been used for a week. It's almost 2 weeks actually when you take one session to the next, even though it was only 1 week off. So Yeah, that's really
What
interesting.
did Paul say when you sent in the video and you did 20 on each leg rather than 2 sets of 10? Did he say anything?
He just said, yeah, he said that's brilliant. Because I don't do it very often. Every now and then I'll just challenge myself a little bit because it feels easy. So he didn't tell us off. In fact, he used it as a good example. So I was like, oh, brilliant. Because I like where he was at. But
yeah, I was going to say, because the other week I've got these pull-ups to do, and at the moment it's meant to be 12 reps is the top set, and then I come down. And I was struggling to get to 12. And then a couple of weeks ago, I think it might have been last week, I managed like 14 quite comfortably. And I was meant to stop at 12, but I thought I'll just see how many I could do, And I did like a couple of sessions where I did 14 as my first set. And I sent it to him and kind of said, oh, look, I was struggling to get 12 and now I'm getting 14. And he said, that's very good. But can I urge you just to stay at 12? He said, just stay at 12 and just keep doing 12 till 12 feels really easy,
Yeah.
And so I use that with my clients as well, just because you can do an extra 1 or 2, just stick with what just make the same number or the same weight just feel really easy and sharpen up the technique and lower the RPE, of doing 12. So 12 is stupidly easy rather than pushing to see, can I do 14? Can I do 15? Can I do 16? So yeah, that was quite interesting. That's why I just wondered what he said to you.
No, that's because I only did it once. So you let me know.
Okay. Mr. Paul Bassett in London, how are you doing?
I'm okay. Took my kids to see Pudding Lane, the monument. It reminds me of Pete was saying about being busy. I don't know if you've ever read Samuel Pepys' diary.
No.
Well, if you do, you suddenly realize he basically did nothing all day. He seemed to always just go for a coffee, go and have lunch somewhere. It sounded like, he was like one of the intelligentsia, obviously, but he didn't seem to do much. It sounded like it was the work-life balance was a bit different 300 years ago. Admittedly, they had a London fire of London, everyone burned to death. But outside that, there was a lot more. The pace of life was a bit different. And I'm just thinking, right. We just had a conversation before we pressed record about using ChatGPT, trying to find AI solutions to save me time, things like that. It's like I'm trying to fit a billion things in that probably would have been just the main day's focus for someone 300 years ago, like write a letter or something. It's not to say people didn't work hard; they did before someone writes in. It's there was a distinction between the upper echelons of society and those at the bottom. But I think it's so much. That's it. I took some time out last week because I was just a bit burnt out. I was just a bit fried.
Did you listen to the Pat Flynn episode? I know you weren't on the recording, but have you listened to that yet?
I never listen to anything that I'm not on. No, I mainly just cut. I use AI.
That's very honest. Yeah. That's very honest.
I use AI and I ask it, can you cut Peter and James out and just have me straight? That's all it is, really. I start about the first 5 minutes in at the moment. I've just got to, it's on my bag of priorities.
Yeah, because I listened to, we were just saying, I listened to that back and I found that a really interesting episode. And I've spoke to a number of members about it and who'd listened to it as well. And we've kind of discussed it and the kind of how much he gets done and his productivity and the kind of, he talks about compartmentalizing time and physical space and energy and everything, and it's having a space to do certain work and having a time slot to do certain work, and I think it's really, really good. You should make time to listen to it, Paul.
Well, I do all my listening on my bike.
Okay.
So I just stick a single headphone in or earplug or whatever you call them, and I just listen to podcasts of all kinds of things, even audiobooks. And I'm always moving somewhere at any point, whether it's going to shops, going down to work, doing something. Yeah, it'd be nice to have some peace, but it's trying to get some extra learning in, because otherwise I'm either, I want to spend time with the kids when I'm spending time with the kids. I'm either working and learning and working is two different things, really. It's not to say that you can't do both, but I like to, it's a fairly easy thing to do is to go for a walk and listen to something or go for a run. Or I know Phil Maffetone might not agree with me, but sometimes it's actually a good place for me to learn is when I'm just focused and I do learn pretty well on audio. So
Yeah, because I mean, I listen to podcasts. It's either the two places is really driving, or like I've said before, when I shave my head probably once or twice a week, I just listen to podcasts then, or anytime I'm in the car, podcast comes on.
How long does it take you to shave your head?
Well, I usually have a shower as well and do my teeth. I'll probably I
A
get
Joe
about
Rogan episode.
no, but I mean, I've always got podcasts that are going all the time. So even if I'm just listening for 20 minutes, I'll listen for 20 minutes. Then I'll get in the car, and then it'll pick up from where I left off. And then so I'm driving up to Northampton and back. I don't think we haven't mentioned this yet, have we? No. I was going to do a quick shout out at the start, but we are still at the start, aren't we? We're it's an extended introduction. Yeah, so I'm driving up to Northampton on Saturday to the British Kettlebell Pentathlon Championships to watch 3 former guests of the show, Finbar Toulan, Ben Morris, and Lauren Emery. Who are all competing, as well as other members of Team Virtue, Gareth Malloy, Kevin Duong, and others. So I'll kind of probably have 2.5 hours. I'll probably be in the car for 5 hours on Saturday. So I'll certainly listen to the Magnus episode back, and listen to 2 or 3 other podcasts as well. So that's kind of when I get most of them done. Right. So Pete, you're walking, your Bath walks, Bath hikes, your 6 million step challenge. How's that going?
Well, the 6 million step challenge is currently over 4.5 million in. So I was looking at it, it might go to 7 million, because I looked this up. I reckon 2,300 steps for me is about a mile, I reckon. So if I do 3,000 miles, that's 6.9 million steps. So I might aim for that. I'm going to get 6.5 million, I reckon, by the end of the year. So 3,000 miles in a year is pretty cool, isn't it?
It is.
I think it works out about 8 miles a day.
Measure it in the size of the Earth. That's how I'm going to...
Well,
so 3,000 miles to get to America, is it? Something like that?
No, end of the Earth.
It's funny you say that. I just had a conversation with someone earlier about... it was a friend of the show, Paul Field. I was training earlier, and he was talking about friend of the show, Chris Branch, and his everyone's a friend of the show, of his running that he's doing. And Chris Branch, we'll have to get him back on again. His next thing he's going for is running 100 miles on a 400-meter running track. Yeah. And I'm not sure how it works, like in terms
it's a recipe for a mental breakdown, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. But they do these. I know that not Phil Maffetone, Stu Mittelman used to do these 24-hour races and 48-hour races where...
Isn't the record like 300 miles or something ridiculous?
Yeah, you've basically got like a tent in the middle of the running track in the field, and you've got 48 hours or 24 hours just to go as far as you can, and you can drop off into the tent whenever you want, but you have like a strategy where maybe, I don't know, you run for 4 hours, you rest for an hour, you run for 4, you rest for 1, or you run for 2, you rest for 15 minutes, or whatever it is. People have these time strategies that they try and get as far as possible. Anyway, he was talking about that. And the reason I say this is you mentioned 3,000 miles, and it's actually 3,000 miles coast to coast across America.
Yeah.
Because I said about another one that Stu Mittelman's done, I know, and he held the record for, was the coast to coast run, running from I think you run from the west coast to the east coast of America, and it's 3,000 miles. So yeah, that's the equivalent of you walking right across that.
Yeah, except for I'm not going to be like experiencing bears and cougars and all sorts of deserts and all sorts of stuff.
Maybe you'll be experiencing rabbits and squirrels and
rabbits,
birds.
Squirrels, the odd badger. Badgers are quite big, actually.
There isn't women throwing themselves at you then?
Not yet.
Cougars, come on.
Hey. There's nobody following me like Forrest Gump or anything like that. So, you know.
No. So yeah, so the 6 million, so the 6 million mile, 6 million miles, 6 million step challenge is going well, and the Bath walks, which you're doing once a month, isn't it? You do that now?
Well, yes, but the reason for that is because there's no demand for it at the minute because I'm creating that. So I'm doing 2 a month at the minute, actually, just because I'm going anyway. You know, I'm going to go anyway, so I might as well get people along. So, you know, and it's to raise money for shelter as well. So every walk that we do, I get people to donate to shelter. I haven't had a chat with shelter yet. That's on my to-do list, and I'm going to do that next week. I've got an address to talk to them about. You know, they've got various different email addresses to go through to them and what have you. So I'm going to try and talk to them about that and get a link that people can donate directly to them, but it links it to Walk Bath rather than just getting people to donate. And then I can use that link and keep a running total of how much we've made, how much we're donating, and also who's donated. So I can have like a list of it, and then I know who's turned up, and then I can have a list of active members and stuff like that. So I'm going to put a website together for that as well, which is all of this is why I'm so busy. I've got to put a website together for it. And then I'm going to interview local businesses in Bath as well and get them to sort of be on it. And then they might use Walk Bath as well, because it's all free. All you have to do is just donate a charity each time. So it's technically not free, but it is, because I don't get anything from it. I'm just doing it because I think I put that post out the other day that you shared. So thanks for that, Jim, about you Google the benefits of walking, and all of the websites that come up, that's a generalization, but a lot of stuff that comes up is like cancer research, osteoporosis.
It was like British Heart Foundation, like dementia, you know, everything.
Yeah, osteoporosis societies, Heart Foundation, lots of NHS websites and all that. And it's like basically there's this huge amount of benefits. We know that. And then lots of mental health organizations as well, with all of the stuff about that. And it all goes together, right? Because physical health and mental health bounce off each other, right? They complement each other. So, and I think everyone knows that. However, on my Samsung app, I've said this before, I think the average number of steps for people my age is 5,000. And that's the average. So there'll be a lot of people out there who do none, or very, very little, very negligible. So it's a massive concern. And then, like I said in that post as well, the NHS is in crisis. Antidepressants are, people on antidepressants are at an all-time high. All of those sorts of things. My girlfriend Sean, right now, she's been in pain for 4 or 5 months. She whacked her head off the mantelpiece in the bedroom, and she's done something to her neck, so she's got nerve pain running up and down her arm. She's been to see chiropractors, physios. I think she's about to see a doctor. I think she's seen a doctor once in 4 months because it's impossible to get an appointment, and they still don't know what's wrong. And she's been signed off by the physio that she went to see, that work put her onto, and all of that. So she's at the end of the line now, and she's just on pain medication, and that's it. And then every now and then it's like, here's your repeat prescription. So it's all about taking personal responsibility, because, you know, the more exercise you do, you know, strength training, walking, running, whatever it is, it doesn't say you're not going to get any of these things, but the what do you call it? The chances go down, don't they?
Is that what she, when we met in I think it was May for the UK Strongest Man? I know she was in a bad way then. Was that from that incident?
Same thing.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah.
She's kind of reaching the end of the line now. But I did speak to a physio who I bumped into, who I know the other day, and apparently the hospital here wasn't taking private MRI referrals, and she won't get a referral from the doctor because she can't see one. So because she can't get an appointment. So, but I think they're taking them on again, but because everything was just so busy. And we know this, right? The NHS is screwed, and it's no fault of anyone who works necessarily within it. You know, so this is the whole thing, trying to rely on the government to sort things out so you can get seen and get out of pain or whatever is isn't a thing anymore, is it? You can't rely on that. And this isn't a political stance or statement or anything. It's just a fact of life these days, isn't it? You can't rely on those things. So you've got to rely on yourself to figure a way of getting it sorted out. So that's what we're currently trying to do for it at the minute, because we don't know what to do.
I just had a thought when you were talking earlier about the walks and stuff. So is the shelter, is there like a Bath office or a Bath kind of, you know, branch of shelter or something like that?
Not that I know of. I just had to. It's one of those things I could have sat and thought about it for months and worked out who and all that. And I was like, no, I'm good, because I knew I was going to do it for homeless people, because we're a tourist town. So there's always loads of homeless people in tourist town, isn't there? Because, like, you know, obviously they sit on the streets and ask for money. And I see what goes on. There's lots of things go on that you shouldn't see. That, you know, I've seen people shooting up in alleyways and all this sort of stuff. Like, I've seen people smoking crack in the park at like 9:30 in the morning when we're doing a session, and then they go off, and then a bunch of ladies came down. I say a bunch of ladies, a couple of ladies came down with a bunch of kids from a nursery school, and they were playing around where these guys, you know, and I went over to them and I said, look, there's been people over here. I'll try to pull one of them to the side to say, can I have a word with you? And she didn't walk away from the kids, obviously, because, like, she's looking after them. So I had to kind of try people, you know what I mean? So, just things like that you shouldn't see and you don't want to go on, really. And that a lot of people don't even know goes on. So that was what I thought. Right, I'm going to do this, because I'd asked myself a few questions. One of them was, what would you do for free? And I go walking anyway, so I'm going to take people with me. And the other one was like, what needs sorting out in the world? And health, like obesity crisis, so health, mental health, physical health, all of that stuff, and homelessness. I was like, right, I can put all that together in one package, so people can help themselves and help others. So that's why. So I've just got to keep batting away at that and not stop.
That's brilliant.
But there isn't a local one. But I had to pick something. I looked at Centrepoint, who are a children's homeless charity. So kind of adolescents on the streets, or adolescents who are living in poor accommodation. And, you know, it's not just homelessness. There's like lots of different grades of it. But I thought it turns out it's not, but I thought that was only based in London. So then one of my guys just said, what about shelter? They'll be, and I just went, right, okay. And then in the future, if this grows, and it might grow, you know, from outside of Bath into different cities and all that sort of stuff around the country and what have you, we can identify different charities as well and do it.
Well, that's the other thing I thought, actually, because you know how kind of Park Run started, and then Park Run is now a global free 5K every Saturday, and it's all over the world, isn't it? And it's all over. I think probably most towns or cities in the UK have got a Park Run now. And, you know, this idea of that, so whether it have a name or whether it be, you know, Bath Walks, or, you know, then you just have the name of the town, you know, Chelmsford Walks or whatever, it could be something that could, you know, become a larger organization and raise lots of money and do lots of good. So, and I think walking is more accessible and more inclusive than running, obviously. You know,
well,
lots of
here's the progression of it as well, is just to get people off their asses and go walking. Like you say, it's very,
so there's a low barrier to entry, low cost, you know, nothing really, no special equipment required, you know.
It doesn't cost anything apart from a donation, but if they want to donate £1, they can donate £1. I was going to put minimum donation, sod that. So like you say, if it grows, then people can then possibly graduate, or whatever you want to call it, from walking to go and do Park Run that they might have wanted to do, but they weren't able, or couch to 5K, all that sort of stuff. And then what I'll probably do as well is kind of, you know, the Brecon Beacons is just up the road, or you can go to the lakes or whatever. Just start creating events. If it does go nationwide and stuff like that, you know, create events and what have you, and get people like Matt Shaw can do mountain leading and what have you, you know, just get different people on board. So it's the Lao Tzu quote, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. We're on the first steps right now. So that's the way I'm looking at it. It's like, right, I'm going to do it for the next 30 or 40 years and it should grow.
Paul, with yourself, the new Hounds of Health studio, overlooked by Baden Powell Towers. How is Hounds of Health going? What's kind of like going on for you? What's the latest kind of, where are you in your journey in this lovely new studio in London?
Was it Huggy Bear when they said, "What's the word on the street"? Yeah,
that's Starsky and Hutch, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah.
Huggy Bear from Starsky and Hutch. Yeah,
what's the word on the street?
Starsky and Hutch wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
Snoop Dogg played him in the film.
Yeah.
There was Chips, wasn't there, as well?
Yeah, California Highway Patrol or whatever it was. Yeah.
It was more a Night Rider and Street Hawk guy.
Airwolf.
Yeah, Airwolf, not bad. Yeah.
Auto Man, do you remember that?
Auto Man.
Yeah, he had his little cursor, and he
was
was
just
like,
a mechanic, was he?
Digital man. He only had,
a bit like Mr. Clutch.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a bicycle repairman in Monty Python. Have you seen that sketch when everyone's walking around and they're all Supermen?
Yes,
they're all superheroes, and then there's bicycle repairman.
Very useful, actually. To be fair.
Do we? Anyway, so on that off of that tangent, So, how are you doing?
Just obviously coming back from the end of summer. I don't know what it's like for you guys, but I mean, we've had clients away for a month at a time. People are away just like the whole of August. There were obviously people who were just off for a week or here and there, or done their bigger holiday earlier in the summer, but very quiet. Just about keeping people back focused, and now just getting people back into the studio. And starting to see some more inquiries again. Goes very quiet over the summer.
They say sort of September is the new January, don't they? There's two kind of within the fitness, within the gym, within health. You've got kind of January, and then you've got September, where everyone returns from summer and has kind of good intentions to re-establish a habit between sort of now and the end of the year, I suppose.
We've only got 2.5 months to do this, haven't we?
Do you know what's going to happen? 4 months.
Nah. I mean, how many people want to start a program in December? There are people who do.
Oh, no, but I mean, if people start now, they've got 4 months.
They've got 4 months.
Yeah.
But we all know that the pressure starts coming. See, one of the things that people never develop is the ability to pressure test all these skills. And that's why they jump from program to program to program, is because they do a program, but they don't understand the fundamentals that they have to pressure test them. Because ultimately, whether it's Easter, summer, Christmas, birthdays, blah, blah, blah,
mitzvahs.
You name it. There is something there that's going to be a reason for not doing something, a reason why you failed, an excuse excuse for this, and this. So I know that, yes, I get busy. I get more inquiries in September. I get more inquiries in January. I get more inquiries in February. I don't get so many inquiries in May. I don't get so many inquiries in August and stuff like that. It's because, things are happening. But I know that mid-November, Christmas party is going to start happening. People are doing Christmas shopping. People are saying, so we only really have, I believe I only have like 2.5 to 3 months tops to really get it into people's heads and develop those skills that they can actually continue post Christmas, having not kind of turned it into a train wreck,
Here's an idea.
I think Pete was going to, I'm going to see if I guess what Pete put his hand up for. Because
I bet you won't.
Okay, because you started that sentence with, I believe I only have this. No, what were you going to say, Pete?
What did you think I was going to say?
Well, because I heard him start the sentence with, I believe I've only got sort of 2.5 months. And then I was going to say, well, if you believe that, then, but what were you going to say?
No, nothing. You would, honestly, this is why I bet you £1 million. We were talking about Samuel Pepys earlier, a writer. It made me think of George Orwell, because you were saying Samuel Pepys did bugger all day. George Orwell, if you've read like Down and Out in Paris and London, he's not doing bugger all. He's like working his arse off, isn't he? However, he wrote 1984 as well, didn't he? So here's what the government should do, right? if the government are in control, stop everyone having kids until December. So you've got to do what you do 9 months before. Every kid is born in December. So then you get Christmas, kids' birthdays, bar mitzvahs, all that shit out the way, right? Everyone gets married in December, all of that. Just do everything in December, and then you only have a month off. Have summer holidays in December as well, and all of that. There you go, done. Rishi, there you go.
Solved.
So
So what do I do with my current children? Do I just sell them?
well, there'll be a way. We'll just change it. They'll never know. They won't
No.
remember.
No.
There you go. Sorted.
No, you're right. I would never have said that or come up with it. Anyway, no, I just think, because I think though you can start like you can start. I sat down with a lady yesterday who's a member who's doing a sort of a 6-week thing with us, and she's already a member, so we know her already. And you know, obviously we've spoke about this before, I think, on the podcast, where like you've just listed things. There's very rarely any unexpected obstacles that come up. You know, we can preempt and we can predict what's going to be going on and obstacles and stuff. So it then becomes, you know, becoming aware of those, knowing them, and then kind of like you say, forward planning to deal with those. And you, I know you do this already, Paul. I'm sure, you know, I know you do. So it's kind of having these conversations early, isn't it, before the fact? And most people can still, you know, train up to, through, over, and including Christmas, you know, and stop those kind of drop-offs or that lack of motivation.
Well, I think that's it. You can plan these things, because you think of like extreme jobs. Like imagine you're in the SAS or, you know, some special forces, you know, and you could be thrown into any situation at any notice. You've trained for it. You've predicted it. You know stuff like this is going to happen. You know you're going to be dropped in water. You know you're going to be in the jungle. You've trained in the jungle. You know you're going to be in the desert. You know you're at night. You know you've got people in a building. You know you've got people somewhere. You know what you're going to do, even though you don't know what's going to happen, because you planned and prepped. And I think that's what I'm trying to build over the next couple of months with people, is like, okay, so you know these things are going to happen. You know you're going to have Christmas. You know you don't want to go into the social engagements with any anxiety around food. You want to feel empowered. You want to feel confident with it. You don't want to gain any weight over Christmas just because everyone's offering you mince pies. So what do we have to do now? And you know, I've had some of my best results with clients over Christmas, but often someone who's got purpose, doesn't matter whether they start in January or December, they come in with purpose. It's just the general kind of, hey, I need to be fit. Oh, I'll do it in a bit, which is probably 90% of people. You know, they're not quite sure. They know they kind of need to do something, and they haven't really been taught that kind of clinical mind, the process, and that kind of housekeeping mindset around their well-being. It's just like, oh, something you do. Eventually, it's not to say they don't develop it. You know, a lot of our clients now have that mindset, but they came in just saying, I just want to get a bit fitter and get more toned. Now's not really a good time. Can I come and do it in a few weeks? And then you say, well, actually, it's never a good time. Why don't we just get something started, and we can just put a plan in place? And then if you get a great result, fantastic. You know, if not, don't beat yourself up, but we can keep me moving forward. And it just takes, I try and take the pressure off people, but at the same time instill them in those skill sets and pressure test them in different things. I keep reminding them about what they have to do when they do these, when they go on a work trip. Okay, so what do we have to do? What do we have to have in place? What are your expectations for your achievements in this time? You know, just keeping people in that mindset.
Yeah, I think as well it helped. We've just started a new strength program, which is going to run from this week for sort of 14, 15 weeks up until, so it will finish sort of mid-December, you know. And it's just kicking off this week, and it's based on I've been reading the Easystrength Omnibook, which has been really good actually, because that's kind of reinvigorated and re-simplified, and you know, just kind of got me a bit more focused on that again. So I've kind of changed up our strength program, and we're running that, so people start that and then they run through that till mid-December, which is good. You know, we've got the tactical strength challenge, which we're hosting at the end of October, so that's about 8 weeks away, 7 weeks away. So that gives people something to train for up until then, you know. And then I think we're hosting Matt Shaw for like a mace workshop mid-November. So I try and put these things in, you know. We've already got the Christmas party booked for the gym, which is on I think it's the 11th of December or the 9th or something. But all these things, you've got these, you know, these things throughout the year to kind of work towards. And then in the new year, you know, the ski and snowboarding trips, if people want to be fit for that. So I think that you've always got to have something to look forward to, haven't you? Or something to work towards, which helps keep you on track. And if you are just turning up at a facility, at a gym, and doing a couple of random classes each week, you're not working towards a goal. You're not moving to, or even you're not moving in a direction, you know. Doesn't necessarily, we've spoke about this loads of times, you know, it doesn't have to be a cast iron goal. It could just be, you know, you've got an idea of direction you're moving in. Without that, it's very easy just to miss a couple of weeks, isn't it?
I would say on that, it's the emotion attached to it as well. So if you're moving towards something or moving away from something, there's an emotion attached to it. And unless you can keep that emotion going, you're just going through the motions and you've forgotten the reason why you were doing it. So you can just easily stop, especially when there's lots of other things going on, which, like you've said, is all the time. Every yeah.
Is training an emotional thing for you guys anymore? Because it is often for people when they start, isn't it? There's a lot of pain points and there's a lot of reasons, like they've maybe lost their mojo, they're not happy with their body, they're feeling weak, they've lost their energy. So it's quite an emotive thing. I mean, for me, training is now just a thing. I get frustrated with myself sometimes, but it's not an emotional thing. I'm not sure what I bring in terms of emotion to the table when I train. I just kind of do it. I have goals and stuff like that. And I get frustrated. I'm quite fairly driven with my training, but
mine is I kind of would say I can do it without thinking about it most of the time. But some of the time, I can't be bothered. But then I think about what the consequences of not doing it just once. And like, you know, you can miss a training session and it doesn't matter. We know that. And because obviously people think, oh, I've missed one, so I might as well give up. But I know what the consequence of that is, of missing one, because then it's like you're more likely to miss another one and then another one and then another one. And I know the person I was before I started doing all of that. So that's what keeps me going, is like, I don't want to go back to where I was. And I'm also being pulled forward because I've got a cast iron goal within that. So that's for training. For the walk bath thing, say, for that, I've got no idea where that's going to go. I'm forging a path for that. I know it's a path that is going, it could go off in any direction, but I know the ultimate goal is to raise as much money as possible, raise like £1 million a year for charity. That's it. So as long as I've got that in, and the emotion behind that is, that's just that'll make me feel great, and it'll help a lot of people, and it'll help a lot of people get fitter. So it helps people on this side get fitter, and it helps people on this side who are struggling, and it helps people who get fitter to be able to help those people as well. I did a video about that this morning. You know, put your own oxygen mask on first before you help the other passengers on a plane and that. So if I've got that in my head and I think about that every day, I'm not going to miss a session. I'm not going to miss setting up a website. I'm not going to miss putting a walk on. I'm not going to miss talking to businesses. I'm not going to miss anything. I'm just going to do it. And that's my big thing. So when you talk about people are just drifting along and like, oh, I haven't really got a goal, I just want to turn up to a couple of sessions. That's fine. But that gets you so far, that gets you off the sofa, say. But then trying to keep that instilled is an ongoing, constant process. And that's where James talks about, and Paul, you talk about it a lot as well, becoming the part of your character, right?
Yeah, I'd say training, the actual process of training, the physical, you know, actually having the workout is not an emotional thing for me at all. It's kind of like, it's written down, it gets given to me, and I kind of try as much as I can to be like a robot and do it. And I don't usually want to do it, or maybe 50%. Yeah. maybe 60-40, 60% of the time I probably want to do it, and 40%, so a sizable minority of the time, I kind of could take it or leave it. And if it wasn't written down and if I didn't have to do it, I wouldn't do it. So the actual doing it isn't an emotional experience for me. But I think probably the reasons why I do it probably is tied to emotion, and feelings and, all the rest of it. So, part of it is because of what I do, obviously, as a job and as a living, and wanting to be an example. Part of it is wanting to be an example to my kids. Part of it is wanting to feel a certain way. Part of it is wanting to look a certain way, if I'm honest, part of it's wanting to, to be involved in this life and this and the rest of it. So probably the reasons behind doing it are emotional, but actually the process of doing it is not emotional, if that makes sense.
I knew you were going to mention your kids there, because obviously you want to be an example for your kids. And I saw a great thing on Instagram today, and it was a guy. He's the urban runner or something like that. I can't remember what he was called. I think he was an American guy, and he said, "I'm not training not to lose weight and blah blah and all of this sort of stuff." He goes, "I'm training so I can beat my kids, as in in running, being not beat them
Yeah.
Because he's got young kids, so there's his young daughter's next to him. She's 3 years old, and he's like, "I'm a faster runner than her." And he goes, still going to be a faster runner when she's 28." And he's like, which is. It sounds ridiculous. However, what a great goal, though, because they'll eventually be faster than you at some point, but you might as well try and stay ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, that was hilarious.
Yeah, no, I love it. So that's, I mean, what about you, Paul? You said there's probably emotion and feeling behind the journey and behind wanting to train, but maybe not in the process of training. Would you agree or not?
Yeah. I mean, there's I don't want to. I suppose in the back of my head, I don't want to be weak. I don't want to be where I was, like Peter. I don't want to be inactive. I don't want to have. I don't want to be struggling with my joints and my body. So that keeps me motivated. But I probably don't need to train as hard as I do. I could probably get away with training much less. I could probably train much easier, much more varied. I could probably maintain a certain level of strength without because there's a lot of physical stress and kind of mental focus in what I currently do. So I suppose deep down, I must enjoy that. Or maybe I'm compensating for something. But yeah, there's no need to probably put myself through the volume of training that I do. It's not necessary to be healthy. Is to train like I do. I don't think it's not to say I don't train healthy, but I don't think you need to train intensely to be healthy. So do as I say, don't do as I do.
That's really interesting. Number one, you said you do loads of volume. You only do 7 minutes here and there, don't you? Is that right?
I know, it's pretty easy, really. I just say it's basically 7 minutes.
No, that's joking, obviously, because I know what you do. But well, roughly what you do. But that is interesting, because there's a spectrum. There's what do you call it? A band, isn't there?
Continuum.
No, not a continuum. Like a band of health. You can be doing too little, and then you can be doing this much. It's kind of like the BMI sort of thing, isn't it? You're within ranges. You can be doing this much, and then you can be getting stronger, or fitter, or whatever. And then eventually, elite athletes and what have you, it goes beyond health and then into performance and all of that. So, if you're doing what you're doing, Paul, I think you're saying you're closer to or you're more than halfway along that line.
Well, there's a consequence
you need to do, really,
to what I'm doing. Yeah, there's the consequence. A lot of people want balance, and the consequence of training, I have to be very, very high. If I want to train like I do, I cannot drink. I can't drink in any volume. I can't smoke. I can't go to bed too late. I can't. You can, but it doesn't last for long. Certainly not in the 40s. So it's not. If I was to tell my clients in order to be healthy, they had to do what I'm doing, I don't think it'd be worth it for them. It's worth it for me.
Mm.
I don't think it's worth it for them. And so I don't recommend what I do for other people. I don't recommend my diet. I don't recommend my training. I recommend aspects of it. And I like to experiment, and anything they're doing, I've done,
But there's an interesting point. This isn't about you as well, by the way, Paul. It's just you're talking about it, so I'm asking you the question because, like, it's the same for me, and I'm sure it's the same for James. Everyone doesn't have to do what I do, and everyone doesn't have to do what James does. But we're just using you as an example now because you were talking. So, that's quite interesting because you said the training you're doing means you can't drink as much as you might do, or you can't you need your sleep and you need your recovery and all of that. So if you weren't training like this, would that then creep back in? This is the thing, isn't it? There's a happy medium somewhere, and for some people,
I'd be certainly more lenient.
Yeah. So for some people, they might need to do loads of training because they will slip back. Other people can do a little bit of training because they might not drink, or they might, they just eat healthy anyway. They always have done, whatever. So they can get away with doing less training because they're not going to do themselves in on the other side, basically. So there can be it's a different balance for different people, isn't it? That's the thing.
I think though that, sometimes it's like the training, like you probably find, you're talking about CNS burnout, volume, James, you've done like 200 presses on each arm. You kind of need to do it in order to get strong, but you don't need to do it in some ways, and my clients don't need to do that in order to get where they want to go. I almost, it's like doing what I do is unnecessary in most contexts.
I think it goes back to, doesn't it? I mean, we'll start to wrap up soon, but this is kind of, I think we're kind of coming to a point here which is kind of almost come full circle, but whereby it depends on the goal, doesn't it? The goal of your clients coming in might be to be active, to be healthy, to have more energy, to lose a little bit of weight, to feel good in themselves, to fit into their clothes better, and to have a bit more confidence, all those kind of things. And like you say, that's fairly straightforward. That doesn't require, too much sacrifice, to hit those goals. But if you have a goal of, like I said, we just mentioned, the three guys who've been on the show who are competing at the weekend in the British kettlebell sport pentathlon, if they're going to do that, they need to make sacrifice. They need to make weight for the competition. They need to be training, structured every single week to hit where they need to get where they want to get, because that's their goal. But in the same way, if you want to be a professional athlete, you're going to have different, you're going to have to take everything to the next level of commitment and sacrifice and discipline. So I think as long as you're clear on the goal, you work backwards from there, don't you?
We're trying to wrap up here, but you just started up a massive topic there. Well, not you, but like we have here, haven't we? Because two things there. The word sacrifice, I think some people hear that and they're like, oh, no, that's not me. I'll not be able to do that. It just means giving something up to be able to get something else, right? If you want this thing over here, you've got to stop doing this, or you've got to do less of that to get more of that. That's sacrifice, isn't it? So it's not like, you don't have to overhaul your lifestyle. You can just change the odd thing here and there.
You sacrifice your money to get food, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. You've got to give one thing up to get the other. And there can be value in it, right? And usually there will be, I would imagine. But the other thing as well, using Lauren as an example, I would say, I mean, I don't know her very well, but I know she joined your gym to lose a bit of weight because she was overweight. But her goals have got bigger and bigger, haven't they, over time? So she's naturally progressed through it and then been like, actually, so if you'd have told her, I don't know, 5 years ago, whenever it was, right, give up everything you're doing now and become a kettlebell sport athlete, should have run a mile if she could have done. That was sorry, but should have gone in the other direction. Whereas she's done it gradually, and now it's what she does. And that's how she identifies herself, wasn't she? She came on and she said, I'm a kettlebell sport athlete. So it's it's one of those things. Again, that's a continuum, isn't it? It's a, you take it as far as you want to take it at the time, and then once you reach a goal, what happens next? That's always the thing, isn't it? And that's then the new start point, isn't it? That's the new you.
Mm. And the thing is, as you get more health, as you get more fitness, as you get more confidence, then your horizons broaden, don't they? And whereby, and one of the most powerful things people say to me if they've been training for a while is, you know, I love hearing that maybe people have gone on holiday and they're just able to say yes to more things. We spoke about this before, you know, like, oh, do you want to go and do the, you know, the walk in the desert or whatever to a certain place, or the walk on the mountain to get to a certain place, and without thinking, you want to be able to say yes. You know, if this is what you want to do, you just want to say yes. You don't want to think, well, I'd like to, but I think my knees are going to hurt too much and I'll get out of breath and I won't be able to do it, and you know, and I feel too uncomfortable and I'm going to get too hot and sweaty and I'm just not going to be able to do it. So the ability, or the option, that your options open up to be able to say, you know, yeah, I want to do a 10K, a 5K run. And then very often a 5K run will lead to a 10K run, which might lead to a half marathon, might lead to a marathon, might lead to a, you know, a triathlon, might lead to whatever, you know, like Chris Branch now, 50 miles, 100 miles. But you have to kind of hit each point along the way, don't you, to open up your mind and to open up the possibility in your mind of having those options. Because like you say, if you said to someone the first day of walking in the gym or the first day of going to a beginner's running club, we're training for a 100-mile run, they, like, to coin your phrase, they'd run a mile, you know. You know, so it's very steady, isn't it? You know, and you know, you've got people like, you know, Becca Roberts and people like that who are now lifting, you know, over 300 kilos in the deadlift. But initially, the goal would have been 50 kilos, and then 100, and then 150, and then 200, and then 250, and then 300. But if they walked in the gym the very first day and tried to lift 300, you know, so I think that's what's so powerful about this kind of journey that we're all on, of, you know, self-improvement, self-discovery, self-actualization, training, whatever, that you kind of, the possibilities of what you can do and what you become are kind of limitless, really, once you start on the path, you know.
Yeah, there's even another side to that as well, where, so the disabled strongman, I can't remember his name, he was the blind guy whose parents were there, his dad was guiding him to every
yes,
in the seated class, and I can't remember his name.
Wasn't Panda? No, not Panda, was it?
No. He was anyway,
yeah, I can remember, I can see him, but I can't remember his name. Yeah.
I was talking to Chris Ricks on the Sunday. I didn't speak to this guy whose name I feel really bad now. I can't remember his name, but I didn't speak to him anyway. But I was talking to Chris Ricks, and he was saying that guy had been turning up for like 3 years to the disabled strongman to compete. In the first year, he just couldn't lift anything. He couldn't do anything. He was just finding his feet within it. And then over the 3 years, he said his progress has been massive. So he set the goal way beyond his limits first, and then just turned up, and he's come to meet that. So that's the kind of difference. He has done the thing of, I'm going to run 100 miles or whatever, or I'm going to be a kettlebell sport athlete on day one. It sounds like, I mean, I don't know this, but that's what Chris was saying. And that's another thing of having that determination, saying, do you know what, it is possible. So that's just basically, you know, for people listening, that's like, it depends on the type of person who you are and the type of goals you want to reach, and the type of position you're in now, and what you actually truly want. And I think that's the big problem, is people don't know what they truly want. It's the whole thing of, like, Dan John talked about it ages ago, didn't he? You go instead of going from A to B, you want to just go from A to not A first.
Yeah, I don't want to be where I am at the moment.
Yeah. Whereas this guy knew he wanted to go from A to Z. Like, he's like, I'm going to go to Z, and I'll get there.
Yeah,
it'll take as long as it takes. And I love that.
Yeah, cool. I think we'll wrap up there, guys. That's been, you know, from I wasn't sure what we were going to talk about we had a few little pointers, didn't we, as we got started, but that's been interesting, you know, meandering through a few topics today. Next week, we are joined by Matt Roberts. Where's Matt based? Do you know, Pete?
He's in Bury, I think.
Bury. Okay, cool. And the week after, I am just going to check in real time.
It's not real time, it's podcast time.
Well, not in real time, real time while I'm recording. Okay, yeah, I'll talk to you in a minute. But we are hopefully going to have Dan, John, and Phil Maffetone together. So that's going to be the one that it's going to be a world first. The meeting of two great minds, joined by three idiots. But a couple of weeks.
That's not a nice way to talk about Paul, Phil, and Dan.
Yeah, so it's looking like we are going to have, the Dan, John, and Phil Maffetone together in a couple of weeks' time, which should be massive. And next week we've got Matt Roberts. So thank you so much, guys, for listening. Please do like, share, subscribe, leave a review if you're listening or watching on a platform that allows you to do so. Please do subscribe on YouTube if you use YouTube. That really helps us. And make sure you give us a follow on Instagram as well. And we will catch up with you next week for episode 160 with Matt Roberts. See you then.